Date of the DAP meeting. Sam. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Statutory Planning Committee meeting of Wednesday, the 21st of May, 2025. For those in person and those online today, the meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing via the Commission's website and YouTube. Commission members and SBC members may refer to devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. In opening the meeting, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to elders past and present. In terms of apologies and leave of absence, we don't have any apologies today, but in person we have myself, Deputy Chairperson Commissioner Heron, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Lakey, Member Franklin, Member Harmon, Member Knight, and joining us online we have Member Moore and Commissioner Adair. And Member Knight has requested a leave of absence from the 20th of July 2025 to the 24th of August 2025 included. Thank you for letting us know. So I'll move on now to item 1.3, disclosure of interests. There is a disclosure from myself in relation to item 3.1, the reconsideration of the subdivision condition for Fitzgerald Street, Elmer Road, Perth. A perceived impartiality interest in my former role as Mayor of the City of Vincent. I attended a DAP meeting in December 2022 and spoke against the initial development application. I was no longer Mayor at the time that the current application development approval was granted and did not participate in the consultation process or at the DAP meeting where approval was granted. Members, is there any issues in my attendance on this item that you wish to raise? Happy for me to participate. Thank you very much. And on item 3.2, City of Fremantle Draft Local Planning Strategy, we have a impartiality interest declaration from Commissioner Heron in that Commissioner Heron's employer Urbis has undertaken a number of projects in the LGA, including some that he had been involved in, but none of which, but they are all now complete and not impacted by the local planning strategy. Commissioner Heron, I'm happy for you to participate in the item unless there's any concerns of members. Right, thank you very much. Disclosures of representation, I have nil. And declaration of due consideration, can all members please indicate that they've received and considered the agenda? Very much. And deputations and presentations. So now I will hand over to Sam. Thank you, Sam.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all excuse me, to the committee meeting this morning, and to those that I'm going to present deputations either in person or via Zoom. You will be invited to join the table or promoted to a panelist via Zoom to deliver your deputation this morning. You have been advised of your allocated time, which will be managed by a timer which will appear on the screen, which will count down that time. If you do have a PowerPoint presentation this morning, this will be shared on the screen throughout your presentation, and you're asked to advise us as you wish to advance your slides. Our first deputation this morning is on item 3.1 of the agenda, the reconsideration of the subdivision condition at lots 273 to 277 Fitzgerald Street and lot 278 Alma Road, North Perth. And our first deputation is from Carson Reynolds from the City of Vincent and Scout Walsh, and they will be joining us via Zoom. Please, you always start talking.
Good morning.
Morning, Carson, and welcome to the committee meeting this morning. Is Scout Walsh joining you this morning?
No, it's just myself today.
Great, thank you. Over to you when you're ready. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And good morning, all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My deputation on behalf of the city is to support an alternate recommendation to that provided in the agenda, specifically to amend condition 1 of the subdivision approval using the wording put forward by the applicant, which is included in the agenda as option 2. And I won't go into the details of the process that was followed as part of the DAP application, but I wish to clarify the city's position that we believe due process was followed for the processing of that application, and that we also applied a strong outcomes-based focus throughout the assessment, which included a comprehensive technical assessment undertaken by our internal teams, as well as an independent peer review of the traffic study undertaken by the applicant, which was also supported. And as part of the process, comments were also sought and received from the department as part of the other regional road referral process. These comments did not object to the development, which specifically referred to plans showing a portion of the building within the Raglan Road truncation area. And the city interpreted this as support for the proposal, particularly given that requiring a redesign or removal of a significant structural element via a condition of approval at an undefined point in the future would be unreasonable in this instance. And our interpretation was later reaffirmed during the Form 2 process, where the advice we received again confirmed no objection on other regional road grounds. And in terms of the outcome that the development would result in, there is a clear consensus here that the approved outcome is appropriate, addressing current requirements for sightline and vehicle access for the intersection, while also allowing flexibility in the future for potential future intersection upgrades and road widening. And this is why the city supports the amendment to condition 1. It provides an appropriate outcome for now while allowing for the future intersection upgrades if required in the future. And the revised condition would result in an amalgamated lot for the development and the separate lot set aside for Fitzgerald Street widening, including the Alma Road truncation. And I think most importantly here as well, the Raglan Road truncation, which is in question today, would still sit within the MRS Other Regional Road Reserve, and the WAPC or DPLH would retain control over any future development in this area and could ensure that sightlines are protected in the future. Just quickly touching on some broader implications, planning aside, this development sits at the heart of our North Perth District Centre on a key strategic site and would deliver 108 much needed apartments and active ground floor uses. It's the first major residential project in the centre in almost 10 years. We've been working really closely with the proponent team for over 5 years. The development has planning approval, a building permit is lodged and is currently being processed by the city, and the apartments are on the market. So we've got a proponent here who is ready to begin. And from the city's perspective, we're concerned that the recommendation put forward in the agenda would create uncertainty, and the outcome could delay this important project, which we're really eager to see delivered for our community. So we're supportive of the alternate recommendation, which allows the project to proceed while still keeping future road upgrades open. And I just would like to also acknowledge that I think there is some lessons learned from this process. We've already made improvements to our GIS mapping to avoid similar issues in the future, and we hope that the department will also reflect on this process so that we can avoid this in the future. So thank you for your time, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Carson. It's Emma Cole, Chair here. I appreciate your deputation this morning. I'll just go to members now to see if there are any questions. Members? There are no questions today, Carson, but thank you for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Emma.
The next deputation this morning, also on item 3.1 on the agenda, we're welcoming Ben Doyle, Richard Pappas, Andrew Pearce and Tanya Moran to join us at the table. Ready? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben Doyle, I'm joined by Richard Pappas and Andrew Pearce of Celsius Property Group, and also Tanya Moran, Director of PJA Australia and an expert in traffic engineering. The reconsideration request before you today relates to a condition of approval for the amalgamation application that is necessary for the implementation of the approved development on this site. Next slide, please. Now, the development on this site applications have been referred to DPLH for assessment and comment on 3 occasions. The original application in 2022, which was ultimately refused. for unrelated reasons. The substantive application in 2023, which was supported by the city and approved by the DAP under LPS 2 and the MRS, and then the Form 2 minor modifications in 2024. In each of those referral responses, DPLH Transport Section advised that there's a 3 metre wide reserve for future widening of Fitzgerald Street and confirmed that the development as proposed makes provision for that widening, which is correct. The DPLH referral advice on each occasion stated there is no objection to the proposal on other regional roads planning plans. Now, in addition to the 3 metre widening, the MRS reserve also provides for visual truncations where Fitzgerald Street intersects with Raglan Road and Alma Road. And as a condition of approval, the lots requiring the development site must be amalgamated, and that approval was granted by the delegation. Now, condition 1 of that amalgamation approval requires the entirety of the reserved land to be set aside as a separate lot for future acquisition. Now, the approved development does not include any structures within the Alma Road truncation. So setting aside that land as a separate lot is uncontroversial. We have no concerns about doing that. However, the approved development does have a column within the Raglan Road truncation and also portions of the building above the ground level at levels 1 to 4. The visual sightline is achieved, as Carson's confirmed, and you'll hear more detail on that from Tanya as well. But the column and building above mean it's not possible for us to set that land aside as a separate lot. Richard will speak a bit more about why it's not feasible to modify the building at this stage. As Carson said, a building permit has been issued. The test really for whether a development is consistent with the purpose of a zonal reserve is whether it's capable of existing in harmony with the other uses within that zonal reserve. And so we've demonstrated, but also the SPC report before you acknowledges, and the city has confirmed, and the peer review has confirmed, and the DAP agreed, that the development in actuality is clearly capable of existing in harmony with other uses within that road reserve. And that's now and in the future. So for that reason, we would ask that you modify the condition as requested and as outlined in the report. And we'd be happy to answer any questions, but I'll hand over to Tanya. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, and good morning, Chair and members of the SPC. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Tanya Moran. I'm Director of PAA, Phil Jones and Associates, presenting on behalf of the applicant to item 3.1 concerning the northwest corner of Raglan Road and Fitzgerald Street. Specifically, I have been asked to review a tech note by Stantec, which is within attachment 9 of the agenda. This tech note has assessed the transport and safety implications, if any, of a proposed 1 metre by 1 metre column inside the subject truncation area. For context, I'm a transport engineer, a graduate of UWA with 24 years of practical working experience across Australia. I'm also an accredited road safety auditor, certified by Main Roads WA and the Institute of Public Works Engineers Australasia, Perth, having undertaken 88 audits in the past 5 years and 108 audits in the last 9 years, all within WA. After peer reviewing Stantec's tech note, I agree with the technical findings that the location of the column as shown on the approved plans impose no adverse impacts to transport safety. In support of the findings and acknowledging the importance of upholding sound transport and road safety engineering principles, I support and I confirm the conclusion that the column inside the truncation splay in this location is not detrimental for traffic and transport operations and safety. Next slide, please. Slide 1. The purpose of a truncation at a corner where 2 streets intersect is to ensure a clear sight lines and safe movements of all users, with references to livable neighbourhoods made on the slide there. From a road safety and transport perspective, the question to be answered is a truncation splay here required for operation and safety? And the answer is no, it is not. Why? Well, sight lines are the critical design issue to address. For a vehicle, next slide please, that is exiting Raglan Road turning right or going straight through, where the subject column could potentially block sight lines to southbound vehicles on Fitzgerald Street. A sightline assessment here confirms that there is more than 85 metres of clear sight distance available past the proposed column. As the sight distance required is 73 metres and more than 85 is available, the sight distance exceeds a minimum requirements and the column imposes no adverse impacts to transport safety. Next slide, please. Additionally, for path users, the crossing site distance at this location has also been checked. CSD is the site distance required at a crossing point that allows both the path user and the approaching driver to see each other in sufficient time to take action. As can be seen here, next slide please. Even with the conservative on the high side assumptions to approach speeds and the crossing distances, the CSD requirement is achieved. In summary, using Austroads, LN, main road supplementary standards, and a site visit, and I believe I'm the third peer reviewer on the technical aspects, PJA concludes that drivers have unobstructed views of oncoming traffic and path users. All road users will be well within site distance requirements, thereby the absence of a truncation here does not adversely impact on transport operations and or safety. Thank you. That's on to you.
Thanks, Tanya. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners and members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Today you've heard from our planner, cities planners and our traffic consultant. So I'd like to focus on the commercial elements of the project and its ability to provide much needed housing in the midst of a well-documented housing crisis. As you would be aware, Alma Square consists of 108 studio, 1, 2, 3 and 4 bedroom apartments, plus over 1,500 square metres of ground floor retail and food and beverage offerings. With a value of more than 170 million, it is the largest mixed-use project to ever be undertaken in North Perth. Celsius has spent 7 years pulling together this street-to-street block landholding and securing a viable development approval, which was twice referred to DPLH for comment. Following the development approval, Celsius undertook the following. We progressed full working drawings and a cost plan for the project. We created a suite of marketing material to assist bring the project to life for local buyers. We established a viewing tower and full on-site sales suite, and we undertook a local specific marketing campaign, which has generated over $45 million of pre-sales, with 80% of the buyers being local owner-occupiers currently living in North Perth, Mount Lawley, Coolbinya and Dianella. These buyers do not want to purchase an apartment outside of their locale. We've also worked diligently with a builder and their subcontractors to the point of being just 2 weeks away from being able to sign a build contract. We've secured project finance from major Australian financial institutions. The above work has been achieved over 14 months with an investment of 4.9 million, not including the land, to create a shovel-ready project that has a piling contractor booked in to commence in August, just 2.5 months from now. During the past 14 months, construction costs have continued to escalate, with our current build price being 9% higher than the cost plan, putting significant pressure on the feasibility. Additionally, there are even fewer builders in the market capable of delivering this project. Celsius is extremely concerned that any further delays in starting this project may result in a viable project becoming unviable or without a capable builder. With a commencement this August, Alma Square will be adding over 100 residents to North Perth by the end of 2027 or very early in 2028. These new residents don't just provide more housing choice and vibrancy to the area, they are the catalyst for many downsizers to sell their home to new families, ensuring the recycling of housing stock, which benefits the entire community. The encroachment is not a safety issue, as the construction of the truncation is open and allows clear line of sight for pedestrians and cyclists. It's not a road safety issue, as vehicle lines of sight are not impacted. If the minor incursion into the truncation is not approved, it would change the entire facade and engineering of the building. This will necessitate an amended development application, setting the project back 9 to 12 months and potentially bringing the viability of the project into question or leaving it without a builder. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you all for the deputation. I'll go to members to see if there are any questions of you. Commissioner Heron.
Thank you. First question, I suppose, I understand the situation in terms of the visibility. I just wanted to understand if we could go to the PJA slide, which has the where the pillar is shown. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Because I'm just wanting to understand. So from a traffic perspective, the visibility through that section is part of the reason why it is acceptable. I'm just wanting to therefore then understand, and again, accepting all the propositions that are put forward and wanting to figure out how we can best support this, what mechanisms are in place to prevent there being any blockages in that particular area? I'm just wanting to understand to what extent that could be street furniture or in there, if there was some signage, is there going to be anything which you would think would start to hinder that safety issue? So that's question one. And then to Mr. Doyle, similarly, what would be from a land use perspective? There's obviously certain things which would be exempt. I'm trying to figure out how, because you're saying that the Commission has control over the area still. If the Commission were to refuse something on that, is that going to trigger a compensation case, which we then have to also have due regard for? Who would like to go first?
Well, I guess I'll go first, just to, because I think the question about how would you prevent further development within that truncation area where the sightline is obtained through there, I think you've probably alluded to the answer to that in the second question, which is it will remain reserved. And so any development within that area would require referral again to the DPLH. And noting the intent of that reserve purpose is to maintain visual sightlines for vehicles and pedestrians and cyclists, then I would expect that there would be quite valid grounds to resist any development proposal within that area that would impact on those sightlines. Tanya, do you?
But sorry, on that basis, would that then trigger a compensation claim?
It's a question without notice. I think.
Sorry, yeah.
Yes. So look, well, strictly speaking, a refusal of a development application within land that is reserved can be a trigger for compensation. However, the High Court decision in relation to the reservation of land resolved that a entitlement to compensation is relinquished when the land is sold to a subsequent purchaser, which is the case in this event. So I would expect that in fact Celsius would have no claim for compensation. I'm not a lawyer, but
sorry, and I'll be asking the officers as well. I just wanted to get your perspective on whether that had been explored as part of your.
But as a purchaser of land subsequent to the reservation of the land, my understanding is they would have no entitlement to compensation.
Okay.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Heron. I believe the question is regarding whether there would be any visual obstructions probably underneath that roof in between the column and the wall. So this is a really good visual aspect that I wanted to include, but what would probably be more pertinent is if we change it to the next, I think it's the next slide, please, where the actual plans are. The next one, sorry. Yeah, thank you. So you will see, I wish I had a pointer, but you will see the red line on the second picture is the current property boundary, and the development plans honour the widened 3 metres that is required of the development plans, which is the second red line, which is the new property boundary. And you will see in that inner red boundary, hitting the other Raglan Road property boundary is where the column sits in the little black dot. So, oh, thank you. Thank you. Top one.
Okay.
That's fine. So the development plans have honoured the required 3 metre widening of Fitzgerald Street. And you will see here, this is the existing curb line and the column sits there. So when we talk about sight lines, which is exactly what a truncation is required for improved visibility, you will see that the development plans actually bring the curb out to make formal on-street parking, which means that pedestrians that are using this path are actually brought closer into the road away from the column, and they have excellent sightlines of oncoming vehicles, which is what the truncation is typically set for if it was to be on the property boundary. So in fact, the development plans improve the road safety and is not detrimental. I just also want to use the opportunity to say this is actually 5.2 metres extension, which is much, much wider than what you would normally get on a local access road, and thereby bringing pedestrians into the curb, closer to the line of sight. And again, this is exceeding what you would have in typical sightline limits. So it's actually an improvement.
I made just a follow-up on that. So, and what I'm wanting to extract from that, so if there was, because there would be things which are not requiring of development approval, like street furniture or the like that would be in that area, I'm wanting to be clear that in that instance, in your expert opinion, there would not be any undue impact in terms of traffic safety or pedestrian safety.
Absolutely not.
Thank you, members. Any further questions? Ben, I have a question for you. I've worked with Michael Damon and the Central Metro team to put forward an alternate for the consideration of the SPC. It is different to what has been proposed by you as the applicant. It does go to the column, which I was not completely satisfied was dealt with by the alternate that you have requested. It talks about excluding the 3 metre by 3 metre truncation at the intersection of Fitzgerald Street and Raglan Road to be set aside as a separate lot for acquisition pending future road widening requirements, and then has a part 2 which then talks about tying that up with a future omnibus amendment to transfer that into from the reserve to the urban zone. So I understand that you have had an opportunity to at least discuss that. Is that something that that you would like to raise any comment or concern with?
I haven't reviewed the exact text of it, but from what Michael discussed with me and advised was the nature of the intent, it sounds entirely reasonable.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Thank you very much for the deputation.
Thank you very much.
Deputation. Fremantle draft local strategy. To advertise, and we're welcoming Nathan Blumenthal from the City of Fremantle via Zoom. Commissioner Adair, we've lost connectivity. She's got some technical issues. The old step.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Nathan, and welcome to the Statutory Planning Committee meeting this morning. She's appearing back now. Sorry, just resolving some technical issues there. Over to you when you're ready to deliver your deputation. Thanks, Nathan.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. My remarks are going to be very brief. I just really want to thank the officers at the DPLH for working with us to get our strategy to this point. I think the iterative approach was very productive and it resulted in this final draft that all sides are agreeable to. The city supports the officer's recommendation, and I'm just available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. It's Emma Cole, Chair here. Thanks for joining us and offering to take questions today. I will go to members now to see if they do have any questions for you. Members, go ahead, Commissioner Heron.
Thank you. I will confess I started reading through the first draft before realising that the second one was in fact the updated. So one item, however, that I just wanted to test with you is in terms of clearly the future Fremantle project will have a significant implication for the city as a whole, and particularly the function of the centre as a strategic metropolitan centre. I'm just wanting to see whether you feel that there is sufficient clarity in what is being presented here and its alignment with the current position around the future Fremantle. Is there in your sense, there is a sufficient transparency and alignment in relation to that?
Yes, we did consider the future of Fremantle as part of this back and forth. There are some parts of the strategy where we recognize that we will have to do further work on. Currently, we're doing work on, for example, the city center city plan, and that will feed into the future of Fremantle as well. So we have noted that the strategy may have to be amended as the future of Fremantle sort of advances. It's sort of in the early stages right now, so we've done what we can to sort of allow for it, but it's hard to have specifics at this point.
Certainly. If I may, the second item was in relation to the activity centre plans, which are referred to, which I understand the city is going to initiate for South Fremantle and North Fremantle. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Yes.
And is there a time frame in which, I'm just mindful that obviously under the SPP 4.2, that development of a certain scale would be prevented until such time as there is an ACP in place. Is there currently a program in which, a time frame in which the city expects that they'll be preparing those?
Not for the activity center specifically. We are embarking on sort of a broader North Fremantle approach right now. And that's really the start of this process. But it's not, I guess, technically looking at the ACP. Right now, we're getting the strategy in place with the intent of then turning to the scheme and really having a good hard look at the scheme and really redoing that. So that will probably take precedence over most anything else.
Thank you. And one final one, if I may, in terms of the transit link, and you have, I appreciate some of the challenges in terms of working through transit when both technology and routes are still to be fully defined at a metropolitan level. But I did note that the strategy currently has the current freight rail being the transit link to the south. There was, of course, at one point, Hampton Road and Coburn Road were going to be, I know the link that was going to be proposed. Has there been any feedback at this point from Department of Transport in terms of those alignments? And is there sufficient comfort that that is reflective of, alignment with broader strategy?
So this is in regards to the Hampton Road area, you said, sorry?
Yeah, so the transit link that you have continuing on from the Fremantle Railway Station currently follows the freight rail line through to the south and assumably linking into the broader Metronet project. There had been previous work done which had Hampton Road and Coburn Road being the nominated transit link. I'm just wondering whether that has been tested or whether that is going to be part of this ongoing consultation process that you're now proposing.
I think it's sort of all part of the consultation process, and obviously it'll be affected by what happens with the port. So this is sort of the current, what's set out in the strategy, sort of the current thinking at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Herron. Are there any further questions for Nathan? Thank you very much, Nathan. We appreciate you making yourself available today.
Thank you.
Members, we have also received written deputations today in relation to, sorry, we haven't, my apologies, there are no written deputations, just the verbals. So we'll then move on to dealing with the items before us today. So the first item that we're dealing with is the reconsideration of subdivision condition for lots 273 to 277 Fitzgerald Street and lot 278 Elmer Road in North Perth. And we're joined today by Dale Sanderson and Jeremy Thompson. Welcome. Dale and Jeremy, you've heard the deputations today. Is there anything that you would like to comment on before going to questions?
I can briefly. To clarify, the department does support the provision of well-located housing. The fact that development was located, that development, the original development proposal had development proposed in the other regional roads reserve was not spoken to in the DA reports submitted or the responsible authority report. The relevant section of the department has acknowledged that our own checks didn't pick that up. We do acknowledge the proposed development provides acceptable sightlines and that a bespoke section treatment can be accommodated at this site if required. The basis for our recommendation is simply that normally such a matter, i.e. to disregard, for the lack of a better term, and other regional roads reservation would normally be considered through an MRS amendment process.
Thank you, members. Are there any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. I suppose, again, going to, there's been obviously, there's two options in relation to alternatives, and I'd like to get your feedback on those in terms of the relative alignment. The other one being in terms of that issue that was raised around potential compensation implications for the Commission.
So on the compensation matter, we agree with the response that was provided by Ben Doyle. We wouldn't add anything further to that. I think that's an accurate. Sorry, the first question.
Well, there's the alternative recommendation as presented in the report, and then there's one that's now been presented as a variation thereof. I'm just wanting to get your feedback in terms of whether you see the second alternative as being superior.
We do, yes. Yes, we were consulted on the preparation of that yesterday with the rationale behind that, comfortable with the wording.
Thank you.
That was my question, just to flesh that out. Thank you too. Any other questions before we move to consideration? Thank you very much. We'll move to consideration. If I could please have well, look, just to be clear, I need to be clear about what people are prepared to move here, because we have the officer recommendation, we have a modified condition within the report, and we have an alternate which I have tabled. So in seeking a mover and seconder, if you could please be clear about what it is that you wish to move this morning. Commissioner Heron?
I'm happy to move the alternate recommendation, not contained within the report, but provided separately.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Member Harmon. Is there any discussion? Perhaps just from me a few comments. A few things that struck me about this when considering putting forward an alternate for consideration was that we consider that these roads are all within the care, control and management of the City of Vincent, and that the City of Vincent has expressed a strong view in terms of being very comfortable with modified condition 1, and that they have done that on the basis of the technical assessment by their own engineering team, as well as the peer reviews that have been conducted during the initial assessment and now occurred prior, and also the fact that at the time, I think that this was assessed through the development assessment process in terms of the impact that it would have. In terms of the local road, I think that, in terms of widening Raglan, we would really be looking at potential widening of Fitzgerald, but I know that for any sort of local residential roads, any widening is always considered quite negatively by local residents, who would see that as increasing the thoroughfare through local roads as opposed to distributor roads. So I'm also very mindful of that. So I was very comfortable to put this forward as a pragmatic solution.
Thank you. If I may, I would fully concur with all of that, and which is why the comfort in that proposition. I think the learnings, however, do need to be noted, and I note that the city acknowledged, and obviously the department has acknowledged. I think similarly the proponent does need to accept that it should have been noted as part of that reporting, and we're obviously working to a pragmatic outcome, but I fully accept the position that staff were in.
Thank you. Any further comments? All right, I'll put to the motion. Any dissent? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, then we can now move on to item 3.2. Thank you very much, Dale and Jeremy. Item 3.2 is the City of Fremantle Local Planning Strategy Certification to Advertise, and we're joined by Rowan and Fabian. Yes, welcome to the meeting. Rowan and Fabian, we've had a very small deputation from the City of Fremantle today with some good questions from Deputy Commissioner Heron. Is there anything that you would like to add before we go to questions from members?
No, thank you, Chair. Fabian? No, nothing from me.
Okay, opening for questions. Go ahead, Member Franklin.
Okay, thanks, Chair. It's just in regards to Future Fremantle, and obviously there's a lot of consultation in that space. Has there been any consideration on the time period for the advertising of the strategy? Obviously, some modifications need to be undertaken, but I was just wondering how that coordinates with other initiatives and how to bring the community along in that engagement process.
Thank you for the question through the Chair. Yes, the City is quite keen to get this strategy out for advertising and have that completed by the end of the year. They would like to line that up with part of the consultation that they're doing on their city. We have been speaking with the Future of Fremantle team to make sure that we're not cutting off all that advertising, wouldn't be cutting across any doing, and they're satisfied that that's the case. I think the strategy or the draft strategy takes the right approach in that it clearly acknowledges that people need to respond in future to anything that comes from the future of Fremantle. It's certainly not preemptive of that, but it sort of acknowledges that is that takes primacy for large parts of the city, and that there's some adaptation that needs to happen.
Thank you. Through the chair, there's a couple of items. One, as I sort of touched on, there is the issue about the transit and whether there has been discussion or whether that will be a particular focus post consultation is one item. The other was if you could expand the issue in North Fremantle about the retreat versus defend, which is referred to in the report. I just want to understand what the current proposition is, which is going out to the engagement, considering I would consider that to be quite a significant one.
Certainly. Thank you for the question, and through the chair. So in relation to the transport matters, the city has advocated in the past for a rapid transit solution along South Street and Hampton Road. There is no state government position yet on that. In those sorts of situations, we're quite comfortable with local governments including commentary in their local planning strategies around an action for the local government, not for the state government, for the local government to advocate for what transport solution they think. So that's, I suppose, the background to that section within the draft document. In relation to the treatment of the coastal process from Sand Tracks through to Leighton Beach. Through the agenda setting process for this report, we were made aware that there had actually been, I guess, a position taken through the future Fremantle that may have been, and that the draft strategy as it was at the time could have been considered to be contrary to that. So that's why we've included the second modification in the recommendation, that we will work with the city to address that, to make sure those things line up before the strategy going out for advertising. I did speak to Russell Kingdom from the city about that yesterday. He understands that and is quite comfortable with that. What the exact wording is, advertised.
Thank you.
Probably, Ryan, just to add to that in terms of the North Fremantle and the future Fremantle transport solution, I understand that Department of Transport and Justin McCurdy has been seeking some funding to actually do a holistic transport impact assessment through that area to actually model what, very critical things like the location of the train station and the connecting road network. Is that, just wanted to make sure that that's...
Yes, Chair, that is correct. Sorry, my comments earlier in relation to transport were focused just on the South Street and Hampton Road, but yes, absolutely, that's also happening in North Fremantle.
Yes. Members, other questions? Rowan, I hope you don't mind me asking, the iterative process seems to have resulted in a good result, but it does seem to be quite a time-intensive way to develop a strategy. Just wondered if you'd like to comment on that.
Yes, thank you. It has taken some time. The draft strategy that was originally submitted was rather disconnected from the guidelines that we have for what a strategy ought to be. We did work with the city for quite some time to make sure the strategy was, I suppose, provided greater clarity and would be more useful in guiding future planning work. That has taken some time, but I agree with that. Obviously, that I think we've got a good outcome now, and I'm quite confident that the time it's taken will be saved as we move forward. So
that was great to hear, because that was my next question in terms of, is this really setting up the city to take these next steps, which are so vital in a sort of more perhaps efficient manner? Because I think Commissioner Heron alluded to the fact that you very clearly pointed out that the activity centre planning and the structure planning is is going to take time. So I think that, you know, just to give some confidence that this process is means from here on that the scheme and then followed by structure planning can move in a quite an efficient way would be reassuring.
Chair, I'd agree with those comments. It will be more efficient from here on in than it would have otherwise been. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Thank you very much. I'll move to consideration of the item. If I could please have a mover and seconder. Moved by member Franklin. Sorry, Member Franklin. You have to bear with me. Sometimes I have memory blanks. And seconded by Commissioner Herron. Is there any discussion? Is there any dissent? No, that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we do need to move to confidential items. Whilst we don't have any on the agenda today, we do have urgent or other business in case there are items raised. So if I could please ask for a mover and seconder that we close the meeting to the public to have a confidential discussion. Moved by Member Lakey, Commissioner Lakey, seconded by Commissioner Herron. Any